Street of black light. Street of black light. Street of black light. Down, Papa, don't you know?
Hello, how you doing? Have you had a good week? I hope so. Well, there you go. If you haven't, I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it. Wish I could, but there you are. So, where are we now? So we're now going to attach the ailerons permanently. Now, I'm only going to show you how to do one of these because obviously there's 6 of them and they're all going to be exactly the same. Once you know that everything fits and you've done your trial fit and everything else, get yourself a pencil, mark a line with your pencil, okay, and you'll have a line there. Now you're going to have to be quick with this. Other people use a slower setting glue, which is fine and probably dandy. I haven't got the patience, so I'm going to put some zap glue on it, and not a lot, only a top and bottom, okay, and then I'm going to fit it into the slot the same way I took it out, okay, and down it goes. Now the reason for putting the pencil mark line is that you know not to put any glue any further than that point because it's pointless, okay, and always remember to put the top back on your zap glue because it could end badly. Okay, I'm just going to rub my fingers over there, take off any excess. Then I'm going to take some Vaseline. There you go, Vaseline. And here's a coffee stick stirrer that I prepared earlier. You can get these free of charge. Technically I suppose it's stealing, but I don't know. Put a little bit of that across there, either side, like that. Okay. Now, you're going to say, Baron, why are you doing that? Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, because if you do that all the way along and then you glue these and they go into the wing, the glue could dry and your aileron's not going to move. So you put a bit of Vaseline just on that joint right at the very edge there. It'll stop this from sticking to the wing and then your aileron will move. Good, isn't it? Okay, so the simplest ways are usually the best. So I'm going to carry on doing the rest of that. Then we're going to adjust the ailerons so they're in the correct position. Right, so how do we overcome the quickness of zap glue drying? Well, the answer is pretty simple. You put everything halfway in already. So let's do it. So there's the glue, there's the half-in aileron, a little bit of glue on each hinge, not forgetting the bottom. Put your top back on. Ta-da! So, apart from the rudder, we're nearing the end of the build. So, we have to make sure the ailerons are in their correct position. Now, if you attach the aileron servo to the receiver and you turn on your radio, then you apply your battery and making sure everything's up and as it should be, you can now check the direction of your aileron. So this is a mode 2, which means that the aileron's on the right hand side, and I turn to the right and this aileron should go up and the other aileron should go down, which it is. Turning left, the aileron goes down on this side and up on this side. But you have to adjust the aileron at this point here, not at the wingtip. Okay, not at the wingtip, at this point here. Okay, at the root of the wing. This is because of washout. Okay, so this is probably the rod needs to come out a little bit here. On this side, if I can manage it, oops, the aileron's got to be towed in. So I'd say about 4, maybe 5 turns there to bring that in, 1 or 2 turns to put that back a little bit, and that'll be right. And then I will check it again, and that stage then completed. And then once we know the wing's okay, we can take the aircraft apart, and then we'll move on to the rudder, I think. So I don't know how well you can see that because it's the chrome here. So this is the link here for this aileron. I'm just going to part it from the horn. Okay, wind it out a couple of turns, pop it back in, and just because I'm on video doing it, it's going to play up. I normally stick a little screwdriver in just to part it. There you go. And that's probably go back a turn actually. Bring it in, so I'll turn that clockwise to myself. In you pop. I'd say that's about right. So just close that up. You can use some fuel line or some PVC tube, put some PVC tube on here, and that locks that in, and that doesn't move. So conversely, this aileron's got to come up. So I wind this, it's clockwise to give it a trial fit. A couple of more turns, I think. Nope, a bit too much. Yeah, that's about right. So any inconsistencies can be adjusted on the radio from now. Usually when it's in flight, but you'll have enough control to adjust these things, get straight and level. Use the trim on the radio, and that should take up any of the slack on that. So there you go, that's all set up. So making sure everything's still working, and there you can see the mechanism doing its thing. There you go. Tail fin and rudder going to look like this. You need to double check the conformity of this setup. So you need to put the horizontal elevator on while the elevator is still loose, and check that the rudder lines up, because I had to adjust the top end of the rudder to make it fit. So make sure the top aligns with the bottom, and then all you have to do is just taper off the back edge here, and all is done, and then we'll cover this. So back to covering, but don't worry, it's only a small piece now, well, a couple of small pieces. So I think the best way to tackle this is make sure that your iron's up to temperature, you've got your sock on, and just go from the middle working out. And I have this at 90 degrees centigrade. I go into the middle and I'm swirling it around. Notice I've got some clothes pegs on there to act as an extra helping hand. Always good. Ooh, a bit hot on my thumb there. Okay, and that's starting to stick. Take off another clothes peg. I have just had a message from Monsieur Cliff Harvey. Oh yes, we're in contact, you know. He's just made an indoor flyer, and he tested it out this morning, and I'm looking forward to seeing that build. I quite like the idea of making an indoor flyer, to be honest. The only problem is where I am, we don't have anywhere ready to fly them, because they're, you know, use sports halls and things, and unlike America, we don't tend to push sports. We rather spend it on things we don't need or want. But anyway, there's my politics. Yeah, not that I'm much of an athlete, of course. This is barrel rolling, I suppose, or darts, or snooker. International model making. So, we've got to turn this over now. I suppose you better come a bit nearer, hadn't you? Is that better? Okay. I've not changed the blade in my knife, so I'm hoping this will work out okay. You need to get into the corners there. Now, you have to remember this bottom half needs to be glued, so ideally you don't want to be covering that. I may fast forward this bit. The rudder. Covered the rudder, stretching the film and using the iron to stretch it round the bends, and it takes quite a while to do, but as long as you leave plenty of film lying over the corners here, you can stretch it, hold it against the table and put the iron around it, and you will get there. So this has been covered. I've used a 1500 grade grit paper. I've put the alcohol over it to get all the grease off, so it's now time to use the TS51 Racing Blue from Tamiya, and this is all you got to do. So it's been pre-shaken, preheated, and just put a first coat on, and I've put a little tab on this piece of paper so I can turn it around. Probably only need one coat, I think, by the looks of it. So I'll let that go off and flip it over to the other side, and we'll see what it looks like. Hi, the rudder. everything's been covered, and the rudder's been covered, and it's had its spray paint put on, and it's not particularly difficult to get the rudder level and glue it on. So the next stage is to put this on the model, but we have to put the horizontal stabilizer on first and then put this on. So that's what we're going to do next, because now it's all covered and there's nothing there to stop us. Thank goodness. We can move on. Well, hello there. See how the light shines off that chrome? It's quite endearing, isn't it? Look at that. Anyway, enough of my rubbish. So, before we go putting on the horizontal stabilizer, the snake. This is the snake, this tube here. Okay, and you need to get that thread into the snake, and you need to get the control horn on. Well, you need to get the clevis on. The clevis is this. This is the clevis. Okay, and that white bit there, that's the control horn. And you'll see that when you open up your package, this is for people who have never done this before, by the way, you're just going to get a thread. It's just a thread, that's it, that's all it is. Let me just undo this, by the way, before I begin. Do it from the beginning. But what you're trying to achieve is that. Okay, is that focus? Okay, there you go. So let me try and explain as best I can. Okay, now you're going to get in the pack these horns, and one's an elevator horn and the other one is, well, for a rudder, I guess, but we're not using the rudder. And inside there you will get a 2mm thread and some 2mm nuts that go through here. So you get 2 sets. Now what you can do is you can utilise that 2mm nut to put on that 2mm thread, because what you get, if I take this clevis off, it'll explain it even easier. Okay, just imagine that nut's not there, you just get that thread, so pretend that nut doesn't exist. Okay, so you've got to get that, bear with me, into that tube, and you've got to thread it in, you see. So in other words, like I said, forget that nut's there, you've got to twist that in. Now you're going to find that pretty difficult doing it by hand. You can start it, you're not going to get very far. So this is the Baron's topical tip, how to get that into the end of the tube. And I don't want to lose the fuzz there, pull that back. So what's the solution? The solution is you get your thread, you get your clevis. Now this clevis is one I'm putting on. It's one of my clevises. I'm not using the nylon ones. I don't like them, to be honest. I find it easier to use these metal clevises. Now these are 2mm thread, 2mm nut. It's all 2mm. Hey, how about that? So you thread on your clevis, and you turn it down, and generally I like to see the end of the thread coming out about that much. Can that focus? I don't know. You can see that. Yeah, that's about 5mm. So I've got quite a bit of adjustment left on there, and it's all about adjustment. Get my pliers, or you can have to have the right spanner, or as Americans say, the right kind of wrench. Oh, isn't it a wonderful life? So you grab your nut, you tighten that up, and it locks it, so that becomes essentially a lock nut. Now here's the bit hoping that the fuzz doesn't. Actually, before I put the fuzz over there, let me go and get a cushion. There you go. Get a cushion. Don't want to break or scratch anything. You can let it hang over the edge a little bit. Yeah. So I'm going to cut the end of this off anyway. I'm going to shorten it. So what you do is, this now becomes essentially your screwdriver. So you put the end of the thread in, twist it round, and you've got a grip. This gives you a grip, and you can turn that in and turn it in, turn it in. Now if you hold this up to the light, I can't really show you this on the camera, but I'm just going to take it up. So hold it up to the light, you can see a bit like an X-ray, probably the best way to put it. You can see how far down the thread you've gone. Now I can afford to bring that back a little bit, okay, and I've decided that for me that's about right. Yeah, you may decide for you want it a little bit longer, okay. In fact, I will put it out a little bit. See how far down the thread that is. Yeah, that's going about 10 millimeters, just over 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now I get my pliers, I grip the thread, no, not the thread, grip the nut, because what you want to do, or what you don't want to do, I'll take that off now, is you do not want to use pliers to get that thread in other words to grip that thread, because you're going to muck the thread up. It's so damned obvious when you think about it, but it's like everything in life, everything's easy when you know how. So here I am, I'm showing you how. So that's how you put that thread in. Now I am going to move rapidly on because I need to eye up the horizontal stabilizer. So I'm just going to put, don't lose that, stick it on the end there, and then once you've got it on, that nut can then go back in your bag for the control horn. So don't leave the nut on, take the nut off, put it back in the bag, because you don't need it anymore. You're only using that to twist that in. So when you've got it where you want it, take the clevis off, take the nut off, put it back in the bag, and either staple it round like that or use a bit of tape so you keep all your things together, because at some point you're going to need that on another model or somewhere else and you haven't got a nut. You see? Okay, so there you are. So turning this round, I may have to turn the camera, or tilt it down I should say. Let's see if I can get away with this. Put the pliers. Oh, put the tweezers away. They were not sticking in anything. Ooh. Okay. So let's see if I can get this camera where I want it. Okay. That's an in-joke between me and the better half. Now, so you do a trial fit with your horizontal stabilizer. This is the horizontal stabilizer, and of course you need to turn this upside down. So we turn it upside down. Now you may want to pin this into place, and it's not entirely a bad idea. And then you want to get your horn, wherever it may be. Just one moment. Oh, I know where the hook. It's under the cushion. You couldn't make it up, could you? Right, so hang on. There it is. Okay, here we are. Okay. So obviously the horns go in this side, and we offer that up, and wherever that snake rests, you want to mark it so that snake will flow freely So then you end up with a mark there. See that little black mark there? Yeah? Okay. So now we'll just put the fuzz to one side for a moment. So you'll notice that that mark is a slight angle. I don't know what that angle is. We'll go about 20-30 degrees perhaps. Okay, so now we're going to put that horn as near to the hinge as we can. You don't want it up. You don't want it up here. That's rubbish. Don't want that. You want it close to the hinge because you get the maximum throw. Okay, it's all to, if you know if you don't want to really want to get into it, then go and find a mathematician somewhere or engineer and explain it to you. But there'll be guys on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, will explain why you do it that way. But it gives you the maximum amount of throw. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera position, and I'm going to go through putting in, attaching. It's because I had a haircut, that's what it is. Attaching the horn, the control horn for the elevator, and then once that's in place, I am more than happy to glue the horizontal stabilizer to the back of the fuzz, and then we can connect up the snake with via the clevis, not forgetting to put the nut back when we've finished. So give me a second or two. Right, why the brown paper bag? Well, this is shiny, this is a white surface, and it's just easy to show this way. This is what we're trying to achieve. To get that. And this actually, I've only just noticed, it's on the drawing that this is how it goes together. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you've never done this before, it'd be a bit of a revelation. Okay, now there's a right and a wrong way of doing it. You must put the threads in from the bottom. You'll notice I've got the elevator separate. I deliberately don't glue the elevators and ailerons until the death, because I just experience really. So we're going to push these out. So note though that this part here goes on the top, the horn goes on the bottom. You might say, well, that's a bit obvious, but you know, you'd be surprised. You need a fine Phillips or posi-drive screwdriver, not a plain one, and just unscrew that. Now these, don't forget, are 2mm. Okay, and what I use to get the holes through is a hand drill. This is a hand drill, if you've not seen one before. This has got a 2mm drill bit in it. Okay, and what you do is, you can use this bit if you want to, but it's better to use the proper bit. Is offer the horn up, take these out, where your mark is, offer the horn up. Okay, hold it in place, get a pin, put the pin in either side. Okay, take the horn off, use your 2mm hand drill, put the drill through, just do it gently so it pops through the other side. Okay, now as I said before, the head of the screw goes underneath, and I'll show you for why in just a moment. It'll all make sense in just a minute. Okay, and I've seen people do this wrong plenty of times. Okay, that goes through there, so you got it like that. Now you're not always going to get those holes through perfectly vertical every time. but most times you will. So you push those through and you get it through loose. Don't stick it all the way in. Take your top end, okay, put that over the top. Can be a bit fiddly at times. Okay, I'm going to start screwing one of those. Make sure it goes through, and I can feel it on my finger. Okay, make sure the other one's lined up. I hope you're getting this on the camera. There you go, I think it's in. Screw that up. Can't feel it coming through yet. Yeah, I can feel it coming through. So we'll just screw that up a bit more. Okay. So it's come through, yeah. Now, if you look carefully at the top part, you'll see there's a hexagonal where the nut seats, and that's why the nuts go on the top. Okay, now you may not notice that straight away, but I'm telling you, so you know to look out for that. Screw your nut on. It's all 2mm. Same nut as what you use to get the horn on. A horn? Clevis on. Why do I keep getting that wrong? And now you can afford to screw that up. And I like to put my finger against that. Holds the nut. So you're screwing the nut down at the same time. And try and do it in equal measure with the other side. Okay. Patience is a virtue. Now you could, if you wanted to, use a little bit of Loctite on the thread. Some people do, some people don't. Screw that up. Now, this is where you want to start screwing the nut down. Getting it seated. And it's starting to seat now, and it's starting to seat. Because now you want to hold those in place. Start screwing that up. And it will pull the nut into the seat, which is what you want. Yeah. Don't do it too tight, because you'll squash the balsa underneath. That one's still screwing in. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's, you can feel the tension on that now. You'll end up with that. So the nuts are seated in on the top. Like I say, you can use a little bit of Loctite if you like, and then if you want to, use your Dremel or whatever you like, and then take the top off of that thread there. You can use side cutters. Don't know what I mean by side cutters. Have I got any here? No. I do possess side cutters, but basically they're like pliers, but they just got this bit here. You get the pliers on them and snip them off. But it's advisable to put the thread back on. If you take this out, put the thread back on, mark it, take this out, put the thread back on, cut it, file the ends off, and then use the nut to re-thread the thread so you can get the nut back on and off again. Me, I'll just use a Dremel to cut this top off here. And that is basically how to do it. Now, just before I go somewhere else, let's put that there like that. Hi, it's me again. Put me tools back before I forget where they are. Now I'm just going to show you this. I'll turn this around, hang on. Can I turn it? No, I'll show you the other way. If you see that there, that shows you the position, so you need it nearest the hinge. Okay, there's your clevis. They advise you put solder on. I'd probably use Loctite, but it should be okay the way it is. And a lot of us use a little plastic tube. They use it for fuel. And you put it over the top there, about here, and it stops this coming apart. So that's how you do that. I will now shorten those down with my Dremel, and I will glue on the elevator onto the horizontal stabilizer. And you already know how I do that. I do that by putting a line there, super gluing it in, okay, then I put the Vaseline on there, and then put this in position, super glue that top and bottom, put it straight in. Okay, right. I'm now going to do that, and I'll see you in a minute. Well, the horizontal stabilizer is now on. You can see that the snake is in the ready position to be trimmed down to the correct length. Now you'll notice I put a little mini spirit level on there, and I have one at the front there as well, and they're both in a level position. And obviously you want to centralise the underneath there. So I've used 5mm epoxy to put that on. Everything else is done. I've shown you what I've achieved so far with the horizontal stabilizer. So we're all looking good. Everything's on the square. So yeah, there you go. It's on the square. Not my sense of humour. Apologise. So yeah, so we're just about ready to hook up that there on the bottom to the horn, and we're good to go. Then put the rudder on. There we go. Well, as per usual, I've overran. You can tell by the sound of the washing machine, very probably. Anyway, I think we better call it a day on this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. If you'd like to make a comment, like and subscribe, that'll be super smashing great. And looking forward to see you. I think probably going to be the final part. Oh, feeling all sad now. Okay. Well, see you in the next bit. Bye.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top.